calling to order. Calling highways to order.
Okay. Number one on the agenda is the county highway garage. Who's approaching that?
I'll talk
Jim,
about it.
go ahead.
And if Mr. Malone thinks we should go into executive session, I think some of it to let out is not bad.
Listen,
Yeah.
listen, wait. I'm not. The kids.
The rule is sale of real property, but if it would affect the value. Proposed sale of real property, but only if publicity would substantially affect the value thereof, then you can go into executive session. And I don't know much about that,
Probably at this
where
point.
you're at, so that.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay,
No,
all right,
put it
fine.
out there.
Helen, no, it's not. It's a discretionary thing.
No, I said.
We don't
I
have,
said,
you're
why-
looking right at me and
No,
saying
I
this.
said, what I was mouthing to you is why don't we do it public? That's what I
That's not what you
Jim.
said.
I wasn't
Please,
criticizing.
please.
I can read your mouth.
I said, why
know
not
it.
public?
I've read it for 5 years, I know it.
I said, why not public? Just
Please,
do it.
let's talk about the county highway garage and,
What do you need for?
I know. Go
It's
ahead.
ridiculous.
Jim.
We've been contacted, I think everybody knows, it's hard to believe, but back in '04, we were also contacted. Jay had done a thorough study. I gave you 3 or 4 pages of what some of the questions and answers he had put together. As you know, in any economic development deal, people are not gonna give you an awful lot of information. What this local realtor is looking for is working with a retail outlet, not the food type. He's looking for us to see if there's any interest in him being able to list that. I told him I'd have to come to the committees. This was early last week, and we had the committee for today, so here I am. You know, I think in some of the information I sent to you, Jay's cost for a new building is $8 million. He'd need 10 to 12 acres. The size of the facility would be 57,500 square feet. It'd probably take us 2 or 3 years at best to build it.
If that was the route we wanted to take.
Right, no, I'm just throwing some stuff out there.
Hang on one second. Mr. Wallace, are you done with?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
With that thought, the piece of property that I have brought up to a few of you across the bridge contains 50 acres of property, and with that said, we could put the jail and the county garage together.
Well, that would be if people were in favor of building a county.
Well, I'm just saying if we're looking for another location for the county garage, we should think of potentially putting them both together.
We haven't had any offers though in regards to the county. Did they make an offer, Jim? or-
No, they're looking, no, Pat, I went back after talking to you guys and asked that, and they'd like to be able to list it.
I just think that we should be looking for one parcel big enough to locate both of them in one.
Oh, they want to list the property?
They have somebody
Well,
interested.
I'm sorry, Pat, I'm in the wrong window. They're working with this company and trying to, persuade them to come here. They're looking around the East Coast, you know what I mean?
So they're looking, okay.
They're looking to secure that site for them, to be able to go to these guys, to be able to push it. And I'm trying to be careful not to say
Yeah, I know.
what I wasn't, and I wasn't
I mean,
told
the
much,
issue-
to be honest.
The
And
other
we're talking
issue
about the
is-
county highway garage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I think
The
something
issue
you want
is
to sell
whether there's any interest in this body if
So
somebody
what we're
comes.
saying is we're gonna list it, and if somebody comes in with a proper, big offer, and we feel it's in the best interest of the taxpayers, we would accept that offer and go elsewhere with our county garage.
Well, but we also talked about satellite garages too, that's what.
I understand that, but I mean, we're talking about that piece of real estate, basically, being valuable enough that it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to peddle it and
We
build
always,
it.
we always want things on the tax rolls. I
Right,
guess, but-
right, okay. That's the concept we're discussing.
I'll make a motion that we accept an offer by this developer, that we list,
Entertain.
entertain an offer, that's the.
No, why don't we just, do we have
We
to,
entertain.
do we have to do a motion? No. If they come with something, let them come with something, then we'll make the
Yeah,
decision.
that's my
That's
argument.
fine.
If somebody wants to pay us $10 million for that piece of land, fine, then we'll consider it.
Call an emergency meeting.
But to give somebody give some realtor the option to go out and advertise, we're not ready to sell it. It doesn't make
Well,
sense.
that's the question.
Yeah.
So FYI, fine.
Okay,
Moving
is
on.
it FYI only?
Whatever you guys wanna do, I'll call the gentleman back and,
Question
I'll give it what we have.
satellite issues though.
you know, that there's possible interest.
Jim, can you get a,
I would say possibly
you know, a
interested.
price line?
Yeah.
I mean, did he throw any price lines?
Absolutely nothing.
Let them throw it at
I
us.
mean,
and
Bob,
we'll
I got
discuss it.
almost-
Moving on.
That makes
Say
sense.
I had to
something.
pull my teeth to get
Let me just
anything.
go from this. We've done this, we've been there, done this.
Oh, yeah, this is history repeating
You
itself.
know,
Yeah.
we're just gonna spin our wheels. Let's let them come to us and then we can deal with it.
There's no question that the proximity to a Walmart, Applebee's hub isn't desirous in some form or fashion. And if it can be turned into retail or something that's on the tax roll, obviously it would definitely
Bless
help everyone, either economically through jobs or taxes for the village of Herkimer. So it's a positive thing if we can justify the cost of replacing what's there.
And then the issue is how would we replace it?
Yes. Do you want, is there any more for properties? The auction results?
The auction, but we would,
Or is highway got one? Oh,
give Bruce out for highway.
I just like to say I totally concur with Mr. Corse.
No.
I second that. I knew he'd love that.
I think it
I think it's
does,
a great idea.
Hang on a second, please.
I think it does bring to light though, if we perceive that we're sitting on something that could have significant value, that what options are we exploring to see if there's a better way of being someplace or in a different fashion than we are currently there? Is that happening in any kind of another venue to see
Yes.
whether, I mean, if someone comes and offers you something, could you not know whether it's already surplus to our needs?
Well, the discussion has happened with.
I mean, there's a consolidation of highway services study that was done.
But nobody bought into it, right?
That was in, more in terms of status quo, but it doesn't mean you couldn't get into a discussion of possibly
Well,
satellite.
we also
We
talked
discussed satellite.
about in committee going to satellite option issues or
Well,
satellite.
rather than have staff all report to the county garage and spend another 45 minutes getting a job.
And, you know,
And that is a
if our
point.
county garage is gonna cost us $8 million, did Mr. Wallace say? I mean, you know, there's a lot of issues there.
That's all $4 too, Mr.
That's
Russell.
04, right? Okay, so let's go on to.
I believe that's all for highway.
Wait, Bruce is,
for highways to come out.
I'll second that.
okay,
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed?
what do you got?
Any more for properties, Jim?
Yeah, the
Auction sale?
auction list.
Okay, everybody get a copy? I got one.
Yep.
Is there a motion on properties to accept that at our next meeting?
I'll take it.
And, yeah, motion by, second,
Who made the motion?
I did.
Thank you.
All right.
and Bob, I second.
We
All
need a
right,
mo-
discussion.
Motion and ways and means to,
So move.
is that correct?
No.
No, it's not correct.
Nope.
It's got a budget.
Okay, that was
Who made the motion?
Go ahead, go ahead.
He's got the floor.
I got a couple of questions. Why do we wait 3 years before we start going after people for taxes? That's number one.
This is a motion to accept,
Yeah, I know, but
The
this is
auction
in regard
result.
to the end-run program, okay?
No, well, we're trying to accept the in-rem auction sale.
yeah. All this would be is a simple resolution
Oh, you're gonna have other-
accepting
All right,
this.
we'll have other after this?
Bring it up under other.
You can bring it up under other, or even on the floor when this is discussed. But
I will bring it up under
As
other.
far as a comment,
I'll bring it up under other.
Do we have, Mr. Chairman, do we have any option of not accepting any one of these individual parcels?
or do we accept it as is, or,
Absolutely.
We do have an option.
Accept or reject any or all offers.
which means if you reject any of these, it's still on the county's tab of reimbursing taxes and
Can I say that?
securing it and,
Liability.
yeah. So if you don't want to accept any of these, and you want the county to maintain that custodianship, it is an option.
Well, with all those caveats, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the warnings that are implied.
Just make
But
sure they got out
When I
there.
look at
Helen.
item number 27,
What
the
is item number?
Thurston's Bowling Alley in Frankfurt, and I mean, a place I grew up and walked by many a year.
Should've bought it.
Swimming pool.
We had taxes due of $205,591. And this might go to Mr. Mano's question under other, but to know that when taxes are $30,000 a year, it grows to $205,000 in taxes. I called the treasurer's office, and while I couldn't talk to Pam or to Kim, the other lady indicated to me that there had been a bankruptcy, and that's what had caused it. I just can't imagine that we have property that would yield $3,300 on a building that had been opening and functioning, I don't know how many months ago. And it's alarming to me that the property could have deteriorated to such an extent that it was only valued at $3,300, and that we, the county taxpayers, have borne the expense of holding harmless the village of Frankfurt and the town of Frankfurt and the school system. So I just wondered whether it's prudent to accept that particular bid, especially that we have proposed litigation on that. If it's
It was
truly illegal-
vandalized.
I beg your pardon?
It was vandalized.
Well, but I'm not certain how much was vandalized in it. When it was told to us, there were a few bowling alleys taken out, and we didn't know what else. I guess before, I would agree that we should take something that has almost $206,000 worth of property taxes accrued on it, and I think Jim told me this does not include interest and penalties. This is just taxes. Isn't that what Jim Wallace?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking $206,000 that we have borne, perhaps, I hope we didn't hold harmless those municipalities for 6 years, that we should accept $3,300.
Yes, I got a question.
Wait. Thank you for your comment. Who's next?
I would have to say Mrs. Rose.
Hang on a second.
Wait a second, Bruce is next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're up front. No, I get it.
I was looking at this.
Rob, can we accept this list, except for one? I mean, and not reject it, but hold one for, say, 2-3 weeks? Do we have time to hold one up for maybe 30 days? One out of this list?
Well, I think your buyer could walk away if you don't perform this in a timely manner. We have to negotiate with the buyer. They have 21 days, I think, to pay. I don't have the terms of the sale in front of me, but I believe they have 21 days to continue to pay. But if we haven't accepted the sale, and it's the Wednesday meeting, I think there's a good chance we lose the sale.
Rob, they got to the 21st or 22nd, so you're right.
What? Wait, go
I got
ahead.
the floor now?
Go ahead.
Last night.
Wait a second. Rob, when you're done, Bob's got the floor. I want to make sure he's got it.
I could go on forever.
No, go.
Go ahead.
If there's more.
You go first.
So you could adopt something now, by the way, and next Wednesday amend to pull something at that point if it were appropriate. If you approve the list now, you just have until next Wednesday to adjust, to either remove an item or to hold off on an item until a later meeting.
What about a bona fide
Okay.
purchaser if he comes in
What do you-
today?
Hold it.
All subject to approval of this legislature. All sales are subject to approval at next Wednesday's meeting.
I just want to point out to the legislature that the taxes on this are currently $33,000 a year. He's gonna have $36,000 invested within the first year. Anybody that wanted it could have bought it. My personal opinion is, if you want to buy it, go to the auction or have somebody go to the auction for you. The guy's gonna have 36 grand into this. And as far as the bankruptcy, Helen, I did check into that. I spoke with Pam Butch. Bankruptcy, as soon as bankruptcy, if they start the bankruptcy before we take title, everything stops. When it comes back out of bankruptcy, it starts all over again, and those taxes it does not go back into the session again. It goes back into the next 2 years, if I'm correct, right, Rob?
Yes.
Because I looked into
I have
that.
that breakdown, by the way.
Right, and I don't, I thought right off the bat, I thought, wow, it's like foolish not to go by yourself. But if you think about it, that guy's gonna have to pay 33 grand. If we should complain to anybody, I think we should be complaining to the assessor, because apparently the gentleman made comment that he's been arguing with the assessor to lower the thing. We've made this hold for the last, 5 years? It's cost the county 33 grand a year to make this property whole.
Did
If
we
the
hold it whole?
assessor,
Did we hold it whole for all that time?
I was,
Yeah, I think we,
yes.
Oh, my God.
And what I'm saying is this gentleman told,
that's our structure.
it's not our fault. But what I'm saying though is with the assessor, if that guy contacted the assessor, all right, I think our assessor should have went over there. I mean, yes, he didn't have anything in writing, but I think our assessor Because if he would've lowered the assessment, it wouldn't have cost us 33
That's
grand a
his
year.
Not our
That's
assessor,
his
it's
fight.
Frankfurt's.
Right.
Hold it. There's way too many questions coming up on
That's why-
one particular item on this auction. And now if it's the best interest of this group that you wanna pull this, then we'll do that one item, and we can do it next Wednesday if our questions can't be answered by then. All I wanna do is approve this list so that we can discuss it in a resolution next Wednesday.
I wanna add something, Dennis.
Well, that can be pulled if your questions can't be answered between now and next Wednesday.
Dennis,
If
I
that
wanna
walks
get,
away from, we're stuck with it.
I know, it was cost us
That's what,
33
yeah,
grand.
that'll have to be the
Let him pay
discussion.
$33
taxes.
grand
He's
out of
coming
our
in today, I
pocket.
talked to him last night, he's coming in today to pay for it.
I mean, do we wanna,
It's simple.
I mean, the question is, one parcel.
put it back on the tax roll.
Is there a majority of the committee that wants to keep this in question?
Not at all.
Or do we wanna get out from underneath it because of its continued liability?
Yes.
You're gonna get stuck with it.
You're
I
gonna
mean,
be
there's
stuck.
gonna be 1,000 questions, but I mean, what do we wanna do?
Dennis, I wanna.
Call roll call.
Dennis, wait a minute, I want to get some information for next Wednesday. Number one, I was under the impression that the Congelero family owned the mortgage. I don't know if that's true or not, I want that found out. If so, they have not been notified of the taxes being due. Now.
I'm sure there's a legal process for them to pursue.
Yeah, but they weren't, yeah, it's too late now. Why weren't they apprised of the taxes being
If
due?
they were misled under the law, then they can sue the county.
Have they filed a mortgage?
Well, I'm not sure how to,
We don't do
I'm
that
not
in
sure how the
Frankfurt.
Jim,
agreement is
there's a
written.
handshake.
Handshake, come on, Pete, we know that, it's a
Oh,
handshake.
well,
Yeah.
We don't know a
I gotta go first and
handshake.
get the gavel.
Yeah, but
We don't know a handshake. You gotta file that.
I'll come up and get the gavel.
How the hell are we supposed to know?
They got all.
I'm not trying to be a fool, but how are we supposed to know about a
If they
handshake?
didn't, they can sue us.
what?
They got all the proper notice, we assume if they didn't, they can sue
Make
us.
these
The
changes,
Congelero
think 3 or 4
family
times.
All proper notice was
Oh,
given.
oh, Dutch, go ahead, stand up. Stand up if you're gonna talk this time.
In my view, this just strengthens our case on what we have. I mean, we argued before that taking those bowling alleys out of there was gonna diminish the value of this property. And by virtue of this auction, and those prices that are shown here, it makes our case even stronger. We are losing a considerable amount of money and I think that it gives our lawyer a stronger hand in his court proceedings on this case.
So are you saying you wish to delete this parcel and
Yes.
retain it for the county?
Yes, I do.
My
Wait,
question,
motion.
my question of Rob is, can we recoup this through litigation?
He's got.
What we consider the value, even though if we transfer it to another owner? Or do we put ourselves in jeopardy of reclaiming?
Yeah, I don't wanna discuss my litigation strategy in an open session. I don't think it's prudent, because I think
That's fair too.
our opponents are gonna read about my strategy in the newspaper and know in advance what I plan to do, and I don't wanna give them
That's
an
fair.
unfair advantage.
I think everyone will agree that's fair,
Yeah.
as far as this discussion is concerned.
Dennis,
All right, go ahead, Peter.
I
I'll
agree
come
with-
back to you, Bruce.
Stand up,
No, I agree.
Stand up.
I agree with Dutch. I think that just the land alone is worth more than $3,000. And besides, I understand there's still a couple of lanes in there with the floors, which you can sell for more than $3,000.
Okay.
You don't think so?
That's fair, that's fair. Bruce, you're next.
Right,
I've been in there.
if we approve this whole list today, and then you say we can pull one next week, what if he comes in and pays for it today? Can we still pull it next week?
Yes,
He's paying for it today. He's really talking
Yes,
about it.
Rob said it 3
you can
times.
still pull it next week, whether he pays or not.
He gets his money.
Okay, go ahead.
What don't you guys understand? Seriously, I know you think it's worth more than 3 grand. You could have somebody go to the auction. There was, how many, from what I heard, there was a ton of people. No, you could, Kurt, there was a whole audience. I just don't understand. You guys want to put the county at risk of $33,000 more, okay, to get back on this. Because you gotta pay your taxes, Helen. You gotta make it whole. This guy's gonna assume it.
Yes, we do.
Yes, you do. If we put it back on their rent, it goes back to 33 grand again.
We don't have to make it whole.
We're not going to, you're gonna go Frankfurt.
Wait a second, Rob, let's get it, do we have to pay those taxes? Can we remove them?
You can remove it, and I think you can also seek to recoup it all.
Absolutely we should.
But
But,
See,
you're the owner of the property.
see.
So
That's-
we're
and
the
that's the
owner.
real
We're
decision.
the owner right
You
now.
want to retain ownership, but you're in a position not to be the owner, and you get into issues of, to have to tear something like this down. Are there any issues in the building itself that might make it very expensive to do something like that? I don't know if you want to put yourselves in that position, but that's what you have to think about.
That's the issue with removing this parcel.
get rid of it. Because it's 33 grand out of my
All right, go ahead, Helen, say
I
that.
need to understand
tomorrow then.
the MREM and what Mr. Schrader said. We have, if I took the annual taxes and divided it by the amount of tax due, it comes up to 6 years, actually. So I'm not I don't know that I fully understand what we are obligated by law to hold harmless the village, towns, and schools. And if what Mr. Schrader is alleging is that if we keep this, we are no longer, if we pull this, I would assume we are no longer obligated to hold anybody harmless. We just are not gonna pay anybody. And I wanna know why we had to continue, even if the three, it went into MREM, he bankrupted, it froze everything. When he came out of bankruptcy, why the 3-year hold harmless started all over again? Were we obligated to do that by law?
Yes.
Yes.
To start all over again?
Yes.
And so we are, so let's say the new owner buys it and doesn't want to pay the $30-some-thousand taxes, we're going to be holding the village and town and school harmless again?
Very well.
MREM is holding them harmless is an obligation of law?
No, when we get into those types of situations where we have recurring problems, we cancel those things. And we can recoup those monies we paid to the locale if we need to.
That confused me though. So in this particular situation,
If it happens again,
no, right now, the situation right now, if we pull this from the resolution, are we obligated to hold harmless the municipalities that are involved while we are on?
unless we take some other action, yes.
So we can then do some action. And is it a challengeable action?
No. Well, anything's challengeable, but we've prevailed on these things before.
But up to this point, we couldn't have taken action.
If we had determined that the property, we knew in advance that the property would be a burden on the county taxpayers, then yes, we can cancel the tax liens on the property and put it in whatever list they call it.
So technically, had we had a vision when the individual went into bankruptcy and came out of bankruptcy and owed us 3 years, we could have canceled if we had a vision that we weren't obligated to continue to hold them harmless. We could have taken an action not to. That was my question.
Yeah, we can do that on any parcel that we think would be burdensome. First of all, we don't have to take it. Second, we can cancel the lien. And we can actually go back and recoup some of those.
How then, on any of this, I don't know if there are any others in here that are more than 3 years. Since I've sat here, I've heard contaminated property and why we do it. And I know that in my village, we did a thing about the water and we took back money. I don't know if that was relative, I think that was relative to some tax bill or something. I'm wondering who's watching the store on that. If this firm, the one in question, went into bankruptcy and came out of bankruptcy, why we chose to continue to hold them harmless? Did we really think when it was the 4th year and they didn't pay? And they were out of I mean, I'd like to see the chronology of saying, you owed this many years of taxes, you went into bankruptcy, you were frozen. When you came out, how many more years did you have?
penalties, that's what,
Yeah, there's tons of penalties.
I'm saying plus the penalties, yes.
It's all.
205 is all included.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought it wasn't.
it's
No,
only 3 years.
Rob corrected.
36,
All right, but still, my question then is, if we look at the chronology of the years that these taxes were not paid, I go back 5 years, let's say in 2008 wasn't paid, 2009 wasn't paid, we're ready to go after them in 2010, there's a bankruptcy. I don't know if that's the chronology. They go into bankruptcy, I don't know how long it takes you to come out of it, and then they don't pay again, and we still hold them harmless. Who's watching the store to say, hey, wait a minute, we had 3 years that the rest of the citizens of our county have supported this initiative. Who's saying to us, because when I voted on this, I wasn't smart enough to catch that it was more than 3 years, or I would have asked the question then, and I don't know if anybody else caught it. So I think not only this particular case, and I know that's the subject of this meeting, but I'm wondering where else it's happening to us. And I think that it's incumbent on us to find out from the treasurer or whatever department here has to tell us where we're into it more than the 3 years. Because we're at some of this property you're never going to
That
recover.
doesn't
Kurt,
add up.
Kurt,
I've had my hand up for a long time.
The numbers
All
don't
right.
add up. If it's
But
3 years of tax
No,
due
I
in
got
1
it.
year,
I
it's
got
not,
it in there.
there's almost 100 grand. Correct?
want
No.
to, I hadn't figured
It's
it.
5 years, Kurt, or 6 years.
No, it can't be. That's what I'm saying. Listen, the numbers don't add up. It's
31,000
3
a
years
year.
back taxes, plus you gotta pay triple.
No, that's ours if they wanna buy it back.
You said it was all the penalties in that.
No, there's 7%
Kurt's got the
interest,
floor.
5%
Kurt's got the
interest.
floor.
I asked the question, is this all the back taxes with all the fines and triple the taxes? I was said yes.
It's not triple.
It's not triple.
What are you talking about triple?
Well, when you.
That's only if the owner tries to redeem it.
Redeem
it.
No, that's all the fines and
That's
penalties.
all the fines and penalties, so your
It's
back
about
taxes.
$150,000 plus the fines and penalties.
So
So we reimburse about
after 3 years, I
$150,000.
thought we were supposed to put all the taxes on hold at that point, and they went into bankruptcy.
About 100.
Correct. At that point, why did we continue to add the taxes and pay and make whole the school and the village?
what Helen asked.
It was my,
Yeah.
So Rob's gonna
By
answer.
by statute.
Taxes are delinquent from the years 2008 through 2013. 2008 and 2009 were unpaid. There was a redemption date of January 8th, 2010. So they were in, this parcel was in the in-rem, we're ready to take title to it on January 8th, and on January 6th, 2010, they filed in bankruptcy. So 2 days before the redemption date, which put everything on hold. They were discharged from bankruptcy on June 15th, 2011, so the process started again. And so now we've come to the end of that road. Again, the period of time passes. 2008 taxes are $32,705 with over $20,000 in interest. 2009, $32,000 in taxes, over $16,000 in interest. 2010, $34,000 in taxes, over $13,000 in interest. 2011, $33,000 with over $9,000 in interest. So there's a large amount of interest here too. And I will say, just in general, the treasurer's office was diligent here. They were timely. They moved as fast as the law allowed them to move. I don't think anyone could reasonably know in advance what you might get at this auction. Sometimes we know, we can look at it and see it's dilapidated, it's falling down. Other times you don't. And a lot of properties we have a surplus, and once in a while we have a loss. So you can pick one out, say it's a loss, and then look at the many, many dozens of other parcels in which there is not a loss, and assess the process overall. I think that's a fair assessment of what we do.
Rob, go ahead, Jim. Jim had something he wanted to
Mr.
say.
Chairman, I just want to remind everybody, this process, we reimburse the schools, the towns, the villages, but every year the profit is about $400,000 for the county. So the process seems to work pretty well for the county.
Go ahead, Helen.
Still, the impression that I had, and I guess I have to own my impression, but I garnered it from information at these sessions, that it's a 3-year process. And then after 3 in the sense before we throw them into in-rem,
Point is,
and
we
we
were 3,
hold the
now we're
school
2.
systems, school, village, town, harmless for the 3 years. So in this case, when they came out of bankruptcy, they went into bankruptcy in January of 10, they came out of bankruptcy in 11, taxes were still assessed in January of 10, taxes were still assessed in January of 11. When they came out of bankruptcy in January 11, while they were in bankruptcy, I was trying to determine, were we by law obligated, since 3 years had already been sucked up, were we obligated to hold the municipalities harmless? Could we have taken action not to when they went into bankruptcy? And then when they came out in 11, definitely, because they're into us now there for 5 years or 4 years, could we have done something? I'm just wondering, who watches this for us?
We do.
So that we can, well, wait, who comes to us
We
in
do.
here? No, who comes to us in here? So that we can make a decision of continue to commit, because you got, $200,000, and if you take out the interest, you still got that. Well, I understand you know it, but we don't. And I think we would have then had a voice to say, in this particular property, tell us about it, and we can make a decision, even if it be an executive session, on whether we believe it should be held harmless, or we should be asking you to reduce the lien.
Okay.
You want me to answer?
I would love you to
Well,
answer. if you
is
like.
there,
I was just gonna
it's an
say
easy answer, go ahead.
You can
Mr.
can-
Malone just read it.
You can cancel the tax lien. That means there's no more taxes on the property. That means somebody sits there and doesn't have to pay any taxes.
We could have sold it though.
So there's always a downside. No, we
could've
couldn't have
sold it.
sold
We
it
didn't
unless we
own
went
it.
through the in-and-around.
In June of 11, we could have been in the in-rem process
No,
when
we
they
were
came out of
by
bankruptcy.
bankruptcy by
Yeah,
law.
when they came out of bankruptcy, in June 11.
We'll start again.
But we didn't. Start
Yes, we
till-
did.
In
We
June
began-
11?
We began the
In
interim-
12?
We began the interim process as soon as we were legally able to do so. This is all a statutory process. We follow the statute to the letter. We're obligated to do this.
But we were not obligated from June 11th to pay and hold those municipalities harmless, or even during their bankruptcy, to take county taxpayers and pay the school and
Yes,
village.
you are obligated by statute to do
Unless-
that, unless you cancel the tax
Right,
lien.
but we couldn't vote to instruct you to cancel it because we didn't know it.
Because it would have been extremely foolish to do so. So I usually don't come in here and ask you to do things that are foolish, because that jeopardizes my job.
We would have
I
had,
try to guide you to follow the law and do things which make sense for the legislature and the taxpayer.
I appreciate it.
It
I'm
would
not
have been a
understanding why it would have been
thing for me
foolish to do it.
and
Tell
that's
me,
why- Because you're canceling the tax lien, there's no more taxes due. People can continue to stay there and not pay any taxes.
so the only way we can not hold them harmless, the way you not hold them harmless is to cancel the lien? There's no other way of doing
This
it?
is a legal seminar. If you want to
No,
come in
I
and
don't
sit in
know.
my office sometime,
This
and I'll
simple
take
question.
you through, none of these questions are simple.
Pat, you're trained, can you
And
articulate
you're
my novice
oversimplifying
view?
a complicated process which is handled very, very professionally, very well, which makes a lot of money for the county every year.
All right, I'm coming back to, as chairman, taking over and saying something. I think our in-rem process has, occasionally a property comes through that is unlike anything else, has traveled through different processes, whether it be bankruptcy or liens or federal liens. And each time it's a learning experience, and you go on to the next one. And there's gonna be other twists and turns as we go through the process. The county has a net profit from the process on behalf of the taxpayers. That means overall, we're doing a good job of trying to get a handle on this. It's not simple. It gets twists and turns as we go. Now, the original motion was to accept the results of the land auction. If enough legislators on next Wednesday want to remove this particular parcel, and that's the wisdom of the majority of the legislature, that can happen next Wednesday night. Right now, I'd entertain a motion from Bruce.
Well, we have Bob and Bob.
Wait,
No, that's fine.
okay, if
We have
there's
a
more to
motion.
add, I mean, if there's more to
Oh, yeah, you
add,
can amend it.
but right now, there's a motion on the floor to accept the results of the land auction as it is. But a parcel could be removed next Wednesday by an amendment offered by a member of this legislature and a majority vote. So if there's more to comment on the results of the land auction, go ahead.
Can I ask Rob? I do understand what Helen's saying. Is there any way that if a flag comes up, I mean, being that he was in bankruptcy for 2 years, okay, prior to, he was back, what, 2 days prior before he took possession of it. Is there any way that we can, if he's, the first year he's out of bankruptcy and he hasn't paid, can you bring it to our attention as a legislature, the whole legislature, so we can, I mean, we're all out in the valley, we all know each other, and just make sure nothing's going on which happened over there. I'm not saying anything corrupt went on over that property, but somebody could alert something going on, like taking stuff out of the property, just so everybody is a little bit more upfront. I mean, I don't know how legal that is, but I understand what Helen's saying, because he's already back 2 years, and now he went into bankruptcy for a year or whatever it was, okay? And then the first year he's out, he's not paying. Second year he's out, he's not paying.
Bob,
And we took.
hold on, go ahead, Bob.
So you just want to let
No, really, there's no more to say.
Keep it.
There's no more to say,
He keeps it.
except
Pays no taxes.
if
Why would
it's
we do
the
that?
majority's will next Wednesday night to retain this parcel, we can do so.
And Frankfurt wouldn't have got paid, the school
So,
would have
so
got
where are we going? Does anybody else have a comment?
And Pat, you still be operating?
Okay.
I do.
Wait, Kurt?
He obviously used the bankruptcy to keep himself in the building for an extra couple of years. He played the system to the, and we gotta pay the bill. That's the end of it. Let's just
Why are we-
move the thing.
Sure, go ahead, go.
You
The
got 5
facts
years
are,
there to go
the
pay.
facts are this, it's been stripped. 3/4 of the alleys are out of it. It's mold infested, if you've ever been in there. The
Yeah.
cellar is terrible, okay? It needs a ton of work. I talked to an existing bowling owner, as a matter of fact, one was at the auction. But by the way, the auction lasted a whole 20 seconds for this parcel, okay? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, dead, right there, stopped right there. There was no interest in it, okay? Talked to an existing bowling alley owner. We all know who that is, okay? Not interested in it. bowling's dead. And for the fact of the matter that he owns everything free and clear in his business, he says he would be struggling too. One just sold in New York Mills, I think, or Yorkville,
Vista.
375,000, bigger than what was proposed here. It didn't go for hardly, what was it, 375, right? It's not there. It's got mold in it, it's got asbestos in it. What do we want this property for? You got a gentleman who wants to buy it, wants to do something with it, let him pay the taxes. And put it back on the, that's what we do.
My whole point.
I mean,
And there's litigation against the previous owner that's
ongoing. It's gonna be
ongoing, to
tied
try to
up.
recoup some of that loss that we suffered.
It will be tied up in courts for a long time. You got there's equipment in there still, restaurant equipment. Must be tied up with, it has to be tied up with the bankruptcies, right? Why do we want to get involved in this? More lawsuits, just keep Rob Malone busy. Lawsuit and lawsuit, cost money, people. Wash your hands of it and move on. And if he doesn't make it, we'll sell it again.
The thing confusing me is the different colored dollars. Now here's item number 8, 20,000 tax owed, brought 3,300. I counted up, there's 19 of them in here that didn't bring what taxes were owed. So my question, are these greener dollars than what we lost up there? We came out making more money than the taxes owed on them. If we do pull this, it's off the tax roll.
The auction is the simplest vehicle we've got. The auction is the simplest vehicle we've got to just reestablish everything and start over.
That establishes true value. Public.
Go ahead, Don.
I just wanted to know, Dennis, from a property committee standpoint, is there anything, when a parcel goes, let's say I own property. Now I know that if I file for bankruptcy, one day before that in-rem procedure starts, I freeze you right in your tracks. Is there something that the county can do so that if somebody goes into bankruptcy and puts us on hold, can we cancel the taxes? So that we don't get stuck paying $250,000 in taxes to the school district? We can do it if they're contaminated. Is there anything we can do if they go into bankruptcy?
The question is though retroactive taxes. You don't want,
Yeah.
you want the people still paying taxes going forward.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
So, well, here's the problem.
That's what
If I own the property, you cancel my tax liens, I don't owe you any more money, do I?
Right,
And I still own the property, can keep running it, can't I?
yeah, because you haven't
Because you
taken
don't
title
own
to
it.
it.
So we create a lot of little tax-free businesses.
What are we
around
doing?
here.
Go ahead, Dutch. You're next.
One more
Anybody
question.
with a half a brain's gonna do
Is
that.
there anything that we
Because you're
can
gonna
do
keep the
that's
property,
in
you're
our
not gonna get
power
any of your money, you
You're
can
not
screw
even
it.
gonna get a
This
bill.
guy from
You're not
selling
gonna
that
get a
back to the original owner. He's gonna make us look like a bunch of fools.
Why?
Rob, go ahead, answer.
Yes, there are some things we can do. If we discover that happened, if it's a straw man purchase, we would take action against that person.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah, but
They bought it for $3,000, he's gonna sell it back to them, and he's gonna get away with not paying those taxes for all that time, and
They could have, but I don't think it's gonna have. They don't know one another, Dutch. I know, I talked to.
they know one another by now.
This exact same thing happened to the mill in
Jimmy
Mohawk.
doesn't have 3,000.
He's bankrupt.
He can't hire an attorney.
What's he gonna run?
He's gotta
The
hire an
alleys are
attorney.
out of
He can't
there.
hire an attorney.
The restaurant, half the restaurant equipment's out of there. What's he gonna take, he's gonna go back in business? He's bankrupt. What do you think?
How do you know he can't bring this stuff back in? How do you know it's not down the street?
Come on, guys, come on.
All right, Bruce, I'm ready for your motion.
But Rob's
It's all
point
a
was,
motion.
We have a motion to move the motion. Is there a second? Moving the motion? I'll second it.
There you go.
Is the committee in favor of coming forward with a question at this time? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Let's have a roll call vote in the committee.
Course,
Yes?
Weekly,
Yes.
Hyde,
Yes.
Ackerman absent. Johnson,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bono.
Yes.
All right, is there any other business for properties, Jim?
No.
I need a motion to go, the properties committee to adjourn.
I'll second.
Ray and Bob?
All in favor?
Aye.